The champagne flute in my hand feels heavier than it should. I'm standing in the corner of the Grand Ballroom at the Riverside Hotel, watching my girlfriend of 3 years laugh with her cousins like I don't exist. The string quartet is playing something classical, something expensive, and everyone's dressed like they stepped out of a magazine. I'm in the best suit I own, the navy one I bought specifically for today, and I might as well be invisible. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Her sister just got married. Big wedding, 200 guests, the whole production. And when we walked through those doors 2 hours ago, when her Aunt Patricia asked who I was, Jessica looked at me, smiled that smile I used to think was genuine, and said, "Oh, this is Edson. He's a friend." A friend. 3 years, 1,000 nights, keys to each other's apartments, meeting each other's parents, planning a trip to Portugal next spring, and I'm a friend. I should have left right then, should have turned around, walked back through those marble doors and never looked back. But I didn't, because I thought maybe she was nervous, maybe she didn't want to deal with family questions, maybe there was some explanation that would make sense of why the woman I love just erased 3 years of my life with one word. So I stayed, and that's where this whole thing started to unravel. The thing about humiliation is that it doesn't hit you all at once. It seeps in slowly, like water through a crack in the foundation. You don't notice it at first. You make excuses, you rationalize, but eventually the whole structure starts to shift, and you realize you've been standing on unstable ground the entire time. Let me back up, give you the full picture. Jessica and I met at a gallery opening in the Arts District. I'm a graphic designer, freelance mostly, and I was there because my friend Marcus had some of his photography on display. She was there with her corporate friends, the kind of people who talk about quarterly earnings and networking opportunities at art shows. We started talking by the wine table. She was sharp, funny, had this way of tilting her head when she listened that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We dated for 6 months before she introduced me to her family. That should have been my first clue. Her parents live in Brookhaven, old money neighborhood, the kind of place where the lawns are always perfect and everyone drives cars that cost more than my annual income. Her father, Richard, is a corporate attorney. Her mother, Diana, sits on charity boards and organizes fundraisers. Her sister, Amanda, the one who just got married, works in finance and married a guy named Trevor who does something in private equity that nobody really understands but everyone pretends to. I design websites and brand identities for small businesses. I'm good at what I do, make decent money, but I'm not corporate. I don't wear a suit to work. I don't talk about market trends or investment portfolios. And from the moment Jessica's family met me, I could feel the temperature drop. Her father shook my hand like he was handling something distasteful. Her mother asked what I did, and when I told her, she said, "Oh, how creative," in a tone that made creative sound like unemployed. Amanda barely acknowledged me, too busy planning a wedding, which had apparently been in the works since she was 12. Jessica told me not to worry about it. They're just protective, she said. They'll warm up to you. Give them time. 3 years later, I'm still waiting for them to warm up. But here's the thing. I didn't care about her family. I cared about her. And for a long time, I thought she cared about me too. We had our own life, separate from them. We'd spend weekends exploring the city, trying new restaurants, going to concerts. She'd stay over at my place. We'd cook together, watch old movies, talk until 3 in the morning about everything and nothing. But there were signs, little things I ignored because I wanted to believe we were solid. Like the time we ran into her colleagues at a restaurant downtown. She introduced me as Edson, just Edson, no context, no "this is my boyfriend," just my name, like I was some guy she happened to be sitting with. When I asked her about it later, she said she didn't want to mix her personal and professional life, keep things separate, boundaries are healthy. Or the time her parents were in town and she suggested we skip our usual Friday dinner because she needed to spend time with them alone. Family stuff, she said, you understand, right? I said sure, even though we'd been planning that dinner for weeks, even though I'd already made reservations at the place she'd been wanting to try. Or the time we were at her company holiday party and she spent the entire night working the room while I stood by the bar nursing a bourbon and making small talk with the bartender. Every time I tried to join her conversations, she'd give me this look, this tight smile that said, "Not now," and I'd retreat back to my corner. I told myself I was being supportive. She had a demanding career. She was ambitious. She needed space to shine without me hovering. I didn't want to be that guy, the insecure boyfriend who needed constant validation. But the truth is, I was disappearing, slowly, quietly, and I was letting it happen. The wedding was supposed to be different. She'd asked me to be her +1 months ago, told me it was important to her that I be there. We went shopping for her dress together, she asked my opinion on her shoes, we talked about the trip, how we'd make a weekend of it, stay at the hotel, enjoy the city. For once, I thought, I was going to be part of her world, not just the guy she called when she wanted company, but her partner, the person she chose. The ceremony was beautiful, I'll give them that. The church was packed, flowers everywhere, sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows. Amanda looked stunning in her wedding dress, all lace and pearls. Trevor looked like every other guy in a tuxedo, but he seemed happy, and that's what mattered. Jessica sat next to me in the pew, her hand in mine. She looked beautiful too, wearing this emerald dress that made her eyes pop. During the vows, she squeezed my hand, and I thought maybe this was it. Maybe being here, seeing her sister get married, would remind her that we had something real too. After the ceremony, we filed out with everyone else, headed to the reception at the hotel. That's when it started. We were walking through the lobby when her Aunt Patricia spotted us. Patricia is her mother's sister, loud, opinionated, the kind of person who asks invasive questions and calls it being interested. "Jessica, darling," Patricia called out, waving us over. She was standing with 2 other women I didn't recognize, all of them holding champagne glasses and wearing hats that looked like they cost more than my rent. Jessica's grip on my hand tightened for just a second, then released. We walked over. "You look absolutely gorgeous," Patricia gushed, kissing Jessica on both cheeks. "That dress is stunning. And who is this handsome young man?" This was it, the moment. 3 years of my life about to be validated in front of her family. Jessica smiled, that practiced smile she uses in professional settings. "Oh, this is Edson. He's a friend." The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt my chest tighten. The 2 women with Patricia nodded politely, already losing interest. Patricia raised an eyebrow. "A friend? Well, isn't that nice of you to bring someone? You know, your mother was just saying she hopes you'll settle down soon like Amanda, but I suppose there's no rush, is there?" Jessica laughed, light and airy. "No rush at all, Aunt Patricia. We should get to the reception. Save us seats." We walked away. My hand was still at my side, empty now. She didn't reach for it. "What was that?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "What was what?" She was scanning the crowd, waving at someone across the lobby. "You introduced me as a friend." She glanced at me, then away. "Edson, not now. It's Amanda's day. Can we not do this here?" "Do what? Ask why you just told your family I'm nobody to you?" "I didn't say that. I said you're a friend. You are my friend." "I'm your boyfriend, Jessica. We've been together for 3 years." She stopped walking, turned to face me. Her expression was calm, controlled, like she was dealing with a difficult client. "Can you please not make a scene? My family is here. Everyone's here. We'll talk about this later." "When later? When you decide I'm worth acknowledging?" Her eyes flashed, just for a second. "You're being dramatic. It's just a word. It doesn't change anything between us." "It changes everything." She sighed, the kind of sigh that said she was done with this conversation. "Fine, you want to be upset, but I'm going to the reception, and I'd appreciate it if you could just get through today without making this about you." She walked away, just turned and walked away, her heels clicking on the marble floor, leaving me standing there like an idiot. I should have left then, should have called a cab, gone to the airport, flown home. But I didn't, because part of me, the stupid, hopeful part, thought maybe she'd come back. Maybe she'd realize what she'd done and apologize. Maybe we'd talk it out and everything would be okay. So I followed her to the reception. The Grand Ballroom was exactly what you'd expect. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, elaborate floral centerpieces on every table. A live band setting up in the corner. A bar that stretched the length of one wall, staffed by 3 bartenders in bow ties. The kind of wedding where everything is perfect because perfection can be bought. Jessica was already at our assigned table, talking to her cousin Lauren and Lauren's husband, whose name I could never remember. I sat down next to her. She didn't acknowledge me, just kept talking, laughing at something Lauren said, sipping her champagne. I ordered a scotch from the waiter-making rounds. Neat. Double. The toasts started. Amanda and Trevor at the head table, surrounded by their wedding party. Her father gave a speech about family and legacy and building a future together. Her mother cried elegant tears. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Trevor's best man told some story about college that got polite laughs. Amanda's maid of honor, one of her sorority sisters, talked about friendship and finding your person. Finding your person. I looked at Jessica. She was watching the speeches, smiling at all the right moments, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. I wondered if she even remembered I was there. Dinner was served. Filet mignon and salmon, roasted vegetables, some kind of fancy potato thing. I pushed food around my plate. Jessica ate delicately, making conversation with everyone at the table except me. At one point, Lauren's husband asked what I did for work, and before I could answer, Jessica jumped in. Edson does graphic design, freelance work mostly. It's very flexible. The way she said flexible made it sound like code for unreliable. That's interesting, Lauren's husband said, clearly not interested. Must be nice to set your own hours. It has its perks, I said. Jessica changed the subject, started talking about her job, some big project she was leading, how demanding it was, but how rewarding. Everyone listened attentively. She was good at this, commanding attention, making herself the center of the conversation. I'd seen her do it 100 times. Usually, I admired it. Tonight, it felt like erasure. After dinner, the dancing started. Trevor and Amanda had their first dance, then her father joined them, then his mother. The dance floor filled up. The band was playing something upbeat now, and people were loosening up, the champagne and wine doing their work. Jessica stood up. I'm going to say hi to some people, mingle a bit. Want company? I asked. She hesitated. Actually, I think it's better if I do this solo. Family politics, you know. I'll catch up with you later. She laughed. Again. I sat there for a while, watching her work the room. She moved from group to group, hugging people, laughing, taking selfies. She looked happy, relaxed, like she was exactly where she wanted to be, without me. I finished my drink, ordered another, then another. I wasn't trying to get drunk. I just needed something to do with my hands, some reason to stay at this table instead of walking out. Around 9 o'clock, I saw her talking to her mother near the bar. Diana had that look on her face, the one that said she was dispensing wisdom or judgment, probably both. Jessica was nodding, smiling, agreeing with whatever Diana was saying. Then Diana glanced over at me. Just a quick look, but I caught it. And I saw the expression. Disapproval, disappointment. Like I was a stain on her daughter's otherwise perfect life. Jessica didn't look at me, didn't wave me over, didn't give any indication that I existed. That's when something in me shifted. I'd spent 3 years trying to fit into her world. 3 years being patient, being understanding, being flexible. 3 years making myself small so she could shine brighter. And for what? To be introduced as a friend? To be ignored at her sister's wedding? To watch her mother look at me like I was something to be tolerated at best. I pulled out my phone, opened a rideshare app, and requested a car. Estimated arrival, 12 minutes. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and walked toward the exit. No dramatic scene, no confrontation. I just laughed. On my way out, I passed Marcus. Yeah, Marcus, my photographer friend. He was there too, hired to do some additional candid shots for the reception. He saw me heading for the door and caught my arm. Yo, Edson, where you going? Party's just getting started. I'm done, man. He looked at me, really looked at me. Marcus and I go way back. He knows my tells. What happened? Nothing. Everything. Does it matter? You okay to get home? I got a ride coming. I'm good. He nodded slowly. You sure? Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow. I walked out of the Grand Ballroom, through the lobby with its ridiculous fountain and its overpriced flower arrangements, and out the front doors. The night air hit me, cool and clean. I took a deep breath, the first real breath I'd taken all day. My phone buzzed. The driver was 2 minutes away. I stood there on the sidewalk, watching well-dressed people come and go, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Like I'd been holding my breath underwater and finally broke the surface. My phone buzzed again. Not the driver. Jessica. Where are you? I stared at the message. 3 words. No concern, no worry. Just a question, like she'd misplaced her keys. I typed back. I left. The 3 dots appeared immediately. She was typing. Then they stopped. Then started again. Then stopped. Finally, a message came through. Are you serious right now? It's Amanda's wedding. I almost laughed. Even now, even after everything, it was about appearances, about not making waves, about me being the problem. I typed one more message. I'm done being your friend. I hit send, then blocked her number. The car pulled up. A silver sedan, some guy named Carlos driving. I got in the back, gave him my address, and we pulled away from the Riverside Hotel. I watched it disappear in the rearview mirror, all its lights and elegance and perfectly curated happiness. Carlos tried to make conversation, asked if I'd been to a wedding. I said yeah. He asked if it was fun. I said not really. He took the hint and turned up the radio. I leaned my head against the window and watched the city pass by. Streetlights, storefronts, people living their lives, completely unaware that mine had just imploded. But here's the thing. It didn't feel like an implosion. It felt like an ending. And endings, when they're the right ones, don't hurt the way you think they will. They just feel like closing a door that should have been closed a long time ago. When I got home, I didn't cry, didn't punch walls or throw things, or do any of the dramatic stuff you see in movies. I just took off my suit, hung it up, and sat on my couch in the dark. My phone was still in my hand. I unblocked Jessica's number, not to respond, just to see if she'd tried to call. She hadn't. But there were more texts. You're being ridiculous. Everyone's asking where you went. You're embarrassing me. This is so childish. Call me back right now. I read them all. Then I blocked her number again, for good this time. I didn't sleep much that night, kept replaying everything in my head. Not just the wedding, but all of it. Every time she'd made me feel small. Every time she'd chosen her image over our relationship. Every time I'd swallowed my pride and convinced myself it was no big deal. But it was a big deal. All of it. And I'd been too scared to admit it, because admitting it meant losing her. And I'd been terrified of being alone. Except, I'd been alone all along. I just hadn't realized it. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 32 texts. Not from Jessica, from her sister Amanda. The messages started polite. Hey Edson, Jessica said you left early last night. Is everything okay? Then they got less polite. Did something happen? Jessica won't tell me anything. Edson, you need to call her. She's really upset. And finally, they got accusatory. I can't believe you walked out of my wedding. Do you have any idea how selfish that is? You ruined Jessica's night. I didn't respond to any of them. What was I supposed to say? Sorry for leaving after being treated like an accessory? Sorry for having self-respect? I made coffee, opened my laptop, and got to work. I had a logo redesign due for a client by Monday, and focusing on that felt better than thinking about anything else.
Around noon, there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole. Marcus. I opened the door. He was holding a bag from my favorite deli and 2 large coffees. Figured you might need this, he said. I let him in. We sat at my kitchen table, and I told him everything. The introduction, the texts, leaving, all of it. Marcus listened without interrupting. When I finished, he took a sip of his coffee and said, "About damn time." What? Man, I've been watching this train wreck for 2 years. You think I didn't notice how she treated you? How she'd light up around everyone else and barely acknowledge you were there? Why didn't you say anything? Would you have listened? He had a point. Look, Marcus continued, I get it. You loved her. Maybe you still do. But love isn't supposed to make you feel like you're invisible. You deserve someone who's proud to be with you, not someone who hides you like a dirty secret. She didn't hide me. She introduced you as a friend, Edson, at her sister's wedding. After 3 years, what do you call that? I didn't have an answer. We spent the rest of the afternoon hanging out, not talking about Jessica, just being. Marcus told me about a gallery show he was working on, asked if I wanted to help with the promotional materials. I said yes. It felt good to have something to look forward to. After he left, I did something I should have done a long time ago. I went through my apartment and gathered up everything of Jessica's. Clothes she'd left in my closet, her toothbrush in my bathroom, the expensive face cream she kept here, books, a pair of shoes, some jewelry. I packed it all into a box, taped it shut, and wrote her address on top. I'd mail it tomorrow. Then I went through my phone and deleted our photos. Not all of them, not yet, but the recent ones. The ones where I could see the disconnect in my own eyes. The way I was leaning toward her while she looked away. I kept a few from the early days, when things felt real, when her smile reached her eyes and mine did too. Not because I wanted to hold on to false hope, but because I needed to remember that it hadn't all been bad, that there were good moments, even if they didn't last. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Monday morning came with rain, the kind that doesn't stop, just keeps falling steady and gray. I sat at my desk working on the logo redesign, drinking my 3rd cup of coffee when my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, it rang again. Same unknown number. I ignored it. Then my email pinged. Jessica's mother, Diana. Edson, we need to talk. Please call me at your earliest convenience. This concerns Jessica's well-being, and I think we can resolve this situation like adults. I stared at the email for a solid minute. The audacity of it. The presumption that I owed her anything, let alone a conversation about how I'd hurt her daughter's feelings by having boundaries. I deleted it. An hour later, another email, this time from Richard, her father. Young man, I don't know what kind of stunt you think you're pulling, but walking out on your girlfriend at a family wedding is unacceptable behavior. Jessica is distraught and you owe her an explanation at minimum. I expect to hear from you by end of business today. Young man. Like I was some kid he could intimidate with his lawyer voice and his expectations. I replied with one sentence. With respect, this is between Jessica and me. I'd appreciate it if you'd stay out of it. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. My phone exploded. Calls from the unknown number, which I now assumed was Diana calling from Richard's phone or some other line. Texts from Amanda, angrier now. More emails from Richard, each one more formal and threatening than the last, talking about respect and consequences and how I clearly didn't understand what it meant to be part of a family. I turned my phone on silent and went back to work. The logo was coming together nicely. Clean lines, modern aesthetic, exactly what the client wanted. I lost myself in it, adjusting kerning and playing with color palettes. It felt good to focus on something I could control, something that had clear parameters and definable outcomes. Around 3 in the afternoon, there was another knock on my door. I looked through the peephole, expecting Marcus again. It was Jessica. She stood there in jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked tired, smaller somehow, like she'd shrunk since Saturday night. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "Hi," she said. "Hi. Can we talk?" "I don't think there's anything to talk about." Her eyes welled up. Real tears this time, not the performative kind she used when she wanted something. "Please, Edson, just give me 5 minutes." I stepped aside. She came in, and I closed the door behind her but stayed standing. She looked around my apartment like she'd never seen it before, taking in the packed box on my counter with her name on it. "You're sending my stuff back?" Seemed like the right move. She turned to face me. "This is really it? We're really done? What did you think was gonna happen? You introduce me as a friend, ignore me all night, and I'm just supposed to be okay with that?" I panicked, okay? My family was there, my aunt was asking questions, and I just said the first thing that came to mind. The first thing that came to mind was to erase 3 years of our relationship? I didn't erase anything. I just didn't want to deal with my family's interrogation. You know how they are. Yeah, I do. They think I'm not good enough for you. And apparently you agree with them. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you stood up for me? When was the last time you actually chose me over what your family thinks, or what looks good for your career, or whatever other priority you have that ranks above us? She wiped her eyes. I'm here now. I'm choosing you now. You're here because everyone's on your case about how I embarrassed you, not because you realize what you did was wrong. I do realize it. I know I messed up. I'm sorry, okay? I'm really, really sorry. I wanted to believe her. Part of me, the part that remembered how good things used to be, wanted to fold. To say it was okay, we could work through it, we could start over. But I'd spent the last 2 days feeling lighter than I had in months, and that meant something. I appreciate the apology, I said, but I don't think it changes anything. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done. We're done. Her face crumpled. You don't mean that. I do. Edson, please, I love you. I know I haven't been great at showing it, but I do. And I'll do better. I promise I'll do better. You had 3 years to do better. You didn't. So that's it? 3 years and you're just throwing it away over one mistake? It wasn't one mistake, Jessica. It was 100 little mistakes. 1,000 moments where you made me feel like I didn't matter. The wedding was just the one I couldn't ignore anymore. She reached for my hand. I pulled back. Don't do this, she said, her voice breaking. Don't give up on us. I'm not giving up. I'm choosing myself. There's a difference. She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then her expression shifted. The vulnerability disappeared, replaced by something harder. You're going to regret this. You think you're going to find someone better? Someone who puts up with your moods and your mediocre career and your refusal to grow up? There it was. The real Jessica. The one who came out when she didn't get her way. I'm not looking for someone better, I said calmly. I'm looking for someone who respects me. And that's not you. Wow, okay, so I'm the villain here. I'm the bad guy because I made one comment to my aunt? You're not the villain. You're just not my person. And I'm not yours. She laughed, bitter and sharp. You sound like a greeting card. Maybe, but at least I'm being honest.
She grabbed her purse, headed for the door. Then she turned back. My family was right about you. You're not cut out for this. For us. For anything real. You're probably right, I said. But I'd rather be alone than feel alone while I'm with someone. She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I stood there for a while, breathing, letting the adrenaline fade. Then I walked to my kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and sat down at my desk. I felt okay. Not great, not terrible, just okay. And okay was better than I'd felt in a long time. That night, Marcus called. How you holding up? She came by. We talked. It's definitely over. How was it? About as good as a breakup conversation can be. She apologized. I said no. She got mean. I stayed calm. She left. Proud of you, man. Yeah? Yeah. Takes guts to walk away from something you've invested in. Most people just keep sinking time into a lost cause because they don't want to admit they were wrong. Was I wrong? About her? Marcus paused. I think you were hopeful. And hope's not a bad thing. But eventually, you gotta look at what's actually there, not what you want to be there. When'd you get so wise? Therapy, man. Highly recommend it. We talked for another hour. He told me about a woman he'd met at a coffee shop, how they'd talked about photography and music, and how it felt easy, natural. I was happy for him. And maybe a little jealous, but in a good way. The kind that reminded me there were still good things out there. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and started working on a personal project I'd been putting off for months, a redesign of my own portfolio website. I'd been meaning to update it, but Jessica had always had opinions about it. Too edgy, too casual, not professional enough. I'd shelved it rather than argue. Now I opened the files and started fresh. Bold colors, clean typography. Work I was actually proud of,
not just the corporate stuff that paid well. I worked until 2 in the morning, and when I finally went to bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, excited about my own life. The next few weeks were strange. Not bad, just different. I went to work, met with clients, finished projects. I started running again, something I'd stopped doing when Jessica complained that I spent too much time on my hobbies. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with because I'd been too busy trying to make myself fit into her world. One of those friends was Nina. We'd gone to design school together, stayed close for years, but drifted when I started dating Jessica. Not for any dramatic reason, just life getting in the way. She reached out after Marcus mentioned what had happened, asked if I wanted to grab coffee. We met at this little place near the river, the kind with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Nina looked the same, short dark hair, bright eyes, dressed like an art teacher, because that's what she was now. "So," she said, sliding into the booth across from me, "Marcus said you're a free man. That's one way to put it. How are you really doing?" "Honestly, better than I thought I would be." She smiled. "Good. You deserve better than how she treated you." "You knew?" "Edson, everyone knew. We just didn't know how to tell you without sounding like we were interfering." "Fair enough." We spent the next 2 hours catching up. She told me about her job teaching art at a charter school, about the mural project she was working on with her students, about her own recent breakup with a guy who turned out to be emotionally unavailable. I told her about the wedding, about walking out, about everything that came after. "Can I ask you something?" Nina said, stirring her third latte. "Sure." "When did you know that it was really over?" I thought about it. When I realized I felt relieved instead of sad, like I'd been waiting for permission to leave and finally gave it to myself. She nodded slowly. "That makes sense. I think sometimes we stay in things because we're afraid of the empty space that comes after. But empty space isn't always bad. Sometimes it's just room to grow." "When'd you get so philosophical?" "Art school. And therapy. Lots of therapy." We laughed. It felt good. Easy. No performance, no pretense, just two old friends reconnecting. As we left the coffee shop, Nina asked if I wanted to help with the mural project. They needed someone with design experience to help the kids translate their ideas into something cohesive. "I'd love that," I said, and I meant it. The mural project became my favorite part of the week. Every Thursday evening, I'd go to Nina's school and work with a group of high schoolers on this massive wall in their cafeteria. The theme was community and connection, and watching these kids argue passionately about color choices and composition reminded me why I'd gotten into design in the first place. One of the students, a kid named Jamal, had real talent. He could sketch ideas faster than anyone I'd ever seen, and his use of negative space was instinctive. I started mentoring him one-on-one, teaching him digital design tools, showing him how to build a portfolio. "You think I could do this for real?" he asked one evening, watching me clean up a vector file he'd created. "If you want it, absolutely. You've got the eye for it." "But like, as a job, making actual money? That's what I do. Freelance design. It's not always stable, but if you're good and you hustle, you can make it work." He nodded, taking it in. "My mom wants me to do something practical, engineering or business. Those are fine paths, but so is this. Don't let anyone tell you your art doesn't matter." I realized I was talking to myself as much as to him. All those times Jessica had implied my work wasn't serious, wasn't real. All those times I'd almost believed her. Nina noticed the change in me. After class one night, we were packing up supplies, and she said, "You seem different, lighter." "I feel different." "Good different?" "Yeah. Like I'm remembering who I was before I started shrinking myself to fit someone else's expectations." "That's beautiful, Edson. Seriously, hold on to that." Around this time, about 6 weeks after the wedding, I started getting messages from mutual friends, people Jessica and I had hung out with as a couple. Most of them were awkward, trying to stay neutral, asking if I was okay, but also letting me know they'd talked to Jessica and she was devastated. A few were more direct. One guy, Brett, who worked with Jessica, sent me a long message about how I'd handled things wrong, how I should have communicated better, how relationships take work, and I'd given up too easily. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I knew anything I said would get back to Jessica, and I was done having conversations through intermediaries. But one message stood out. It was from Sarah, a woman Jessica and I had been friends with. Well, I thought we'd been friends. Turns out she'd been Jessica's friend first, and I was just adjacent. "Hey Edson, I know this is weird, but I wanted to reach out. I heard what happened at the wedding, and I just want you to know that what Jessica did wasn't okay. I've watched her treat you like an accessory for years, and I should have said something. I'm sorry I didn't. You deserve better. I hope you're doing well." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I wrote back, "Thanks, Sarah. That means a lot. I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. Hope you're well too." She replied almost immediately, "I'm glad. And for what it's worth, I'm not hanging out with her anymore either. I realized if she could treat you like that, I don't want to know how she talks about me behind my back." It was validating in a way I didn't expect. Knowing I wasn't crazy. Knowing other people had seen what I'd seen. 2 months after the wedding, I finished the new portfolio website and launched it. Clean, modern, showcasing my best work. I posted it on social media, and the response was immediate. Old clients reached out with new projects. Design firms I'd wanted to work with sent inquiries. Within a week, I had more work than I could handle. I hired an assistant. Well, assistant is a strong word. I brought Jamal on as an intern, paid him fairly for his time, and started teaching him the business side of design. He was a quick learner, hungry to grow, and working with him reminded me why I loved this field. Marcus threw me a party to celebrate the website launch. Nothing fancy, just a dozen people at his apartment, pizza and beer and good music. Nina came, some other designer friends, a few clients who'd become friends over the years. At one point, Marcus pulled me aside. "You look happy, man." "I am." "Good."
You earned it. How's coffee shop girl? He grinned. Her name's Alicia, and she's great. We're taking it slow, but it feels right. I'm happy for you. You'll find that too, you know? Someone who actually sees you. Maybe, but right now, I'm good with just me. And I meant it. I wasn't looking for anyone, wasn't trying to fill a void. I was just living my life, and it felt full in a way it hadn't in years. That night, after everyone left, I helped Marcus clean up. We were washing dishes when he said, "You ever hear from her? Jessica?" "No, and that's fine." "You think she's okay?" "Honestly, I don't know, but it's not my job to worry about that anymore." He nodded. "Fair." We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. Then Marcus said, "You know what I respect most about how you handled this?" "What?" "You didn't try to punish her. You didn't blast her on social media or talk trash to mutual friends. You just walked away with your dignity intact. That takes real strength." I'd never thought about it that way, but he was right. I could have made it ugly, could have aired all the dirty laundry, made her look bad, gotten revenge in all the small ways that feel good in the moment but leave you hollow after. But that would have made me just as small as she'd tried to make me feel. Instead, I just moved forward. Built my life on my terms, and that was the best revenge I could have asked for. 3 months after the wedding, I was at a gallery opening. Not Marcus's this time, but another photographer whose work I admired. I was standing by a series of black and white portraits when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned. It was Amanda, Jessica's sister, the bride. "Hi, Edson." "Amanda, hi." She looked uncomfortable, shifting her weight from foot to foot. "Can we talk for a second?" "Sure." We moved to a quieter corner of the gallery. She took a breath. "I owe you an apology for the things I said after the wedding. I didn't know the full story, and I jumped to conclusions." "It's okay." "It's not, actually. I was protective of Jessica, and I blamed you for something that wasn't your fault. She told me what really happened, how she introduced you, how she'd been treating you. I didn't know what to say." "For what it's worth," Amanda continued, "I think you did the right thing, walking away. I would have done the same." "How is she?" I asked, surprising myself. "She's okay. Dating someone new, actually. Some guy from her company. Seems nice enough." "Good. I hope it works out for her." Amanda smiled, sad but genuine. "You're a better person than I gave you credit for. Trevor and I were talking about it, about how you never badmouthed her, never tried to make her look bad. That says a lot about your character. I just didn't see the point in burning bridges. Still, not everyone would handle it that way." She paused.
I should get back to Trevor. He's probably bored out of his mind looking at abstract art. But I'm glad I ran into you, and I'm sorry. Really. Apology accepted. She squeezed my arm and disappeared back into the crowd. I stood there for a moment, processing. Jessica was dating someone new. I waited for the sting, the jealousy, the regret. It didn't come. I felt nothing. Or maybe not nothing. Maybe just peace. The kind that comes from knowing you made the right choice, even when it was hard. I spent the rest of the evening looking at art, talking to strangers about composition and light, and feeling completely present in my own life. When I got home that night, I opened my journal. I'd started keeping one after the breakup, just a place to process thoughts without judgment. I wrote about seeing Amanda, about learning Jessica had moved on, about how I felt nothing but relief and maybe a little gratitude. Gratitude that she'd shown me who she really was. Gratitude that I'd found the strength to walk away. Gratitude for empty space that let me rebuild on my terms. I closed the journal and looked around my apartment. It was exactly how I wanted it. Art on the walls I'd chosen, furniture that was comfortable instead of stylish, a space that felt like mine. I made a cup of tea, put on some music, and opened my laptop. I had a new project starting tomorrow, a rebrand for a nonprofit that worked with at-risk youth. It was exactly the kind of work I wanted to be doing. As I reviewed the creative brief, my phone buzzed. "Nina, coffee tomorrow before the mural session? I have an idea for the final piece I want to run by you." I smiled and typed back, "Absolutely. See you at 10." I set my phone down and got back to work. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because this was my life now, the one I'd chosen, the one where I mattered. And it felt good. 6 months had passed since the wedding when I got an unexpected email. It was from a design conference in Portland, inviting me to speak on a panel about freelance branding for small businesses. They'd seen my portfolio website and wanted me to share my approach with emerging designers. I accepted immediately. The conference was 3 weeks away, which gave me time to prepare. I worked on my presentation in the evenings, after finishing client work and before heading to Nina's school for the mural sessions. Jamal helped me put together slides, his eye for layout making everything sharper and cleaner. "You nervous?" he asked one night as we reviewed the deck. "A little. I've never spoken at something this big before. You'll kill it. You know your stuff." Knowing it and talking about it in front of 200 people are different things. He grinned. "Just pretend you're talking to me, except 200 times." I laughed. The kid had a point. The week before the conference, Nina and I finished the mural. It was massive, covering the entire cafeteria wall, an explosion of color and shapes representing different aspects of community. The students had poured their hearts into it, and seeing it complete felt like watching something impossible become real. At the unveiling, the principal gave a speech about art and expression and the importance of giving young people platforms for their voices. The students beamed with pride. Jamal stood next to his section of the mural, an intricate geometric pattern that flowed into organic shapes, and I could see the confidence radiating off him. After the ceremony, Nina pulled me aside. "Thank you for doing this. These kids needed someone like you, someone who takes them seriously. I should be thanking you. This whole thing reminded me why I love what I do." She smiled. "You're different than you were 6 months ago. More yourself." "I feel more myself." "Good. Hold on to that when you're in Portland. You've got something valuable to share." The flight to Portland was smooth. I'd splurged on a decent hotel, one of those places with exposed brick and local artwork in the lobby. The conference was being held at a convention center downtown, and when I walked in for registration, I was hit with that particular energy that comes from hundreds of creative people in one space. The panel wasn't until the second day, which gave me time to attend other sessions and network. I went to a talk about sustainable design practices, another about building client relationships, and a workshop on pricing strategies for freelancers. Each one reinforced something I'd been learning over the past months, that my work had value, that I didn't need to apologize for charging what I was worth, that the right clients would respect both my process and my boundaries. Between sessions, I met other designers. We exchanged business cards, talked about projects we were excited about, shared war stories about difficult clients and tight deadlines. It felt good to be around people who understood the specific challenges and joys of this work. On the evening before my panel, I went to a networking mixer at a rooftop bar. The view was stunning, the city lights spreading out in every direction. I was nursing a craft beer and talking to a designer from Seattle when someone called my name. I turned. It took me a second to place her. Rachel, from Jessica's company party. The one who'd been genuinely interested in my work when Jessica was busy making jokes at my expense. Edson, oh my God, I thought that was you. Rachel, hi, what are you doing here? Same as you, I assume. I left corporate last year, started my own branding consultancy, saw your name on the speaker list and hoped I'd run into you. We moved to a quieter corner of the rooftop. She told me about her journey from corporate marketing to independent consulting, how she'd been miserable in her old job, but too scared to leave until a restructuring gave her the push she needed. I have to tell you, she said, what you did at that company party stuck with me.
The way you stood your ground when Jessica was trying to diminish you. I'd been watching her do that to people for years, and nobody ever called her on it. I didn't really call her on it. I just stopped playing along. Same difference. It made me realize I'd been playing along too, with a boss who undervalued me, with a company culture that rewarded performance over people. Watching you draw that line helped me draw my own. I didn't know what to say. I'd never thought of that night as anything but painful. "How are you doing?" she asked. "I heard you two split up." Yeah, it was the right call. I figured. She's with someone new now. Guy named Preston from the executive team. They're very into posting couple photos on social media. Good for them. Rachel studied my face. You really mean that, don't you? I'm not. What would be the point? She's living her life, I'm living mine. No reason to carry that weight around. That's remarkably mature. Or maybe I'm just finally at a place where I don't need her approval anymore. We talked until the mixer wound down, exchanged real contact information, made plans to collaborate on a project she had coming up that needed design work. As we said goodnight, she hugged me. "I'm really glad you're doing well, Edson. You deserve it." Walking back to my hotel, I thought about how strange life was, how the worst night I'd had in years had somehow led to this moment, standing in a city I'd never been to, about to speak at a conference, connected to people who valued what I brought to the table. The next morning, I woke up early and ran through my presentation one more time. I'd titled it, "Building a Brand That Reflects Who You Are, Not Who You Think You Should Be." It was about authenticity in design, about the importance of understanding your own values before you could help clients articulate theirs. It was also, I realized as I practiced in front of the bathroom mirror, about everything I'd learned in the past 6 months. The panel was at 2 in the afternoon. There were 4 of us, all freelance designers at different stages of our careers. The moderator asked questions about finding clients, managing workflow, dealing with scope creep, pricing our services. I answered honestly, sharing both successes and mistakes. Then someone in the audience raised their hand. How do you handle clients who don't respect your expertise, who want to micromanage every decision? The other panelists gave diplomatic answers about education and communication and setting expectations up front. All true, all valid. When the microphone came to me, I paused. Honestly, sometimes you don't handle it. Sometimes you recognize that not every client is your client, and that's okay. I spent years trying to make myself fit into spaces that didn't value what I offered, and it made me miserable. Now I'm more selective. I work with people who respect my process and my time, and if they don't, I walk away, because my self-respect is worth more than any paycheck. The room was quiet for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Then someone else. Within seconds, half the audience was applauding. After the panel, people came up to talk, handed me cards, asked questions, told me my answer had resonated. A woman in her 50s with silver hair and kind eyes shook my hand. "Thank you for saying that. I've been freelancing for 20 years, and I still struggle with saying no to the wrong clients. Hearing someone younger and more successful say it's okay to walk away means a lot." "I'm not more successful," I said, "just further along in learning that lesson." She smiled. "That's success in my book." That evening, the conference had a closing reception.
I ended up at a table with Rachel, the woman with silver hair whose name turned out to be Margaret, and 2 other designers I'd met during breaks. We talked shop, shared resources, laughed at industry inside jokes. At one point, Margaret asked how I'd gotten into design. I told them about studying visual arts in college, about not knowing what to do with the degree, about stumbling into a design internship that turned into a career, about loving the problem-solving aspect of it, the way you could take abstract ideas and make them visual and tangible. "What about your personal life?" one of the other designers asked. "How do you balance work with everything else?" I thought about Jessica, about how I'd twisted myself into knots trying to balance her expectations with my own needs, about how I'd lost myself in that equation. "I don't know if I have it figured out," I said, "but I think the key is making sure your personal life doesn't require you to shrink who you are professionally, and vice versa. The right people will fit with your life, not demand you rebuild it around them." Rachel caught my eye across the table. She nodded slightly, a small acknowledgement of the journey we'd both been on. The conference ended the next morning. I flew home feeling energized and clear-headed. Marcus picked me up from the airport. "How was it?" "Really good. Like, surprisingly good." "Yeah? Tell me everything." On the drive home, I filled him in. The panel, the connections I'd made, running into Rachel, the whole experience of being in a space where people valued what I did. "Man, I'm proud of you," Marcus said. 6 months ago, you were in pieces. Now you're out here inspiring people." "I don't know about inspiring. Trust me, that's what you're doing." When I got back to my apartment, I found a package waiting. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Jessica's. I stood in my kitchen holding the box, debating whether to open it. Part of me wanted to throw it away unopened, maintain the clean break I'd worked so hard to establish. But curiosity won. Inside was a book, one I'd mentioned wanting to read months ago, some design theory text I'd never gotten around to buying. There was a note tucked inside the front cover. "Edson, I saw this and thought of you. I know we're not in touch anymore, and I'm not trying to change that. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, really sorry, for all of it. You deserved better than how I treated you, and I hope you found it. Take care, Jay." I read the note 3 times, looking for subtext, for manipulation, for some hidden agenda. But it seemed genuine, a real apology, with no expectation attached. I texted Marcus a photo of the note. His response came immediately. "Progress, for her, I mean. You were already there." I put the book on my shelf and threw the note away. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need to keep it. The apology was nice, but it didn't change anything. Didn't make me want her back or regret my choices. It was just a closing of a loop that was already closed. That night, Nina called. "How was Portland?" "Amazing. I'll tell you all about it at coffee tomorrow." "Can't wait." "Also, I have news." "Good news? The school wants to commission another mural. Different location, bigger budget. And they want you to lead it." "Seriously?" "Seriously. You in?" "Absolutely." We talked logistics for a few minutes. Then she said, "You sound different." "Happy." "I am happy." "Good. You've earned it." After we hung up, I sat on my couch in the dark, listening to the sounds of the city outside my window. Cars passing, distant conversations, a dog barking somewhere. Normal sounds. Life happening. I thought about where I'd been 6 months ago, standing on a sidewalk outside a hotel, waiting for a car to take me away from a wedding where I'd been erased, feeling small and invisible and angry at myself for letting it get that far. And I thought about where I was now. A business that was thriving, work that felt meaningful, friendships that nourish instead of drain. A life that was mine, built on my terms, with no apologies. The wedding had been the catalyst, but the real work had happened after, in the daily choices to value myself, to set boundaries and hold them, to walk away from what diminished me and move toward what elevated me. Respect wasn't something you demanded or begged for. It was something you gave yourself first and then refused to accept anything less from others. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app, started writing down ideas for the new mural project, themes about growth and transformation, about the space between who you were and who you're becoming. As I wrote, I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was finally living a life where I didn't have to pretend to be smaller than I was. And that was better than perfect. That was real. The rest would come. New projects, new relationships, new challenges. But I'd face them from solid ground, with a clear sense of who I was and what I deserved. I'd left that wedding reception as a friend, but I'd walked into something better. I'd walked into myself. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.